It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 312. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Lally-ho.
Grace.
Hi.
Godra.
Hello.
Tam.
Oh.
And Thalen.
Hey there.
Yeah, for a second I thought like we were doing a thing where everybody was taking longer than the previous one, but apparently that wasn't a thing.
We were kind of doing the thing.
Yeah, you were kind of doing the thing. I just didn't know if it was intentional or not.
It was, I mean, kind of intentional.
It wasn't unintentional. So, yeah, apologies for not having a show last week, because scheduling somewhat happened because reasons, and instead we just called it early and took the night off and did other things. But tonight we're back. And, you know, like, for a couple weeks I have been talking around a game I have been playing without actually mentioning the game I'm playing, because NDAs are a thing. However, that thing is happening again, and it is without NDA. And I have been playing New World, which is a title that sounds weird sometimes, but it is Amazon Game Studios MMO. It was the first game they announced, and it has apparently gone through a wild ride in development. And what is there is extremely playable. And to be honest, like, the last time I played, I had a list of complaints, and for the most part, they're all gone. So, like, some things have changed. I don't even know where to start with this game. It is extremely enjoyable. It is a open world sandboxy PvE game that also has PvP, but the PvP can be like largely ignored.
Okay, you're really gonna have to clarify that one.
Yeah, so the game, okay, the premise of the game is you're explorers, and actually no, let me take a step back. It's basically Greedfall the MMO. Like, to be honest, like, it's Greedfall the MMO. Like, you're going to this world. There are no native population. There isn't really a native population, so that's one difference from Greedfall.
That's a big difference.
But it is this magical island that has this substance called Azoth, and everybody wants the Azoth. The thing is, the island also has some very malevolent forces that basically corrupt anyone that's there for very long. So as you're roaming around the island, you're constantly seeing the remnants of other groups that tried to colonize the island. Yet in your infinite hubris, you're trying as well. It's a game with no classes. It's a game without any real restrictions on your character. You pick up a weapon and you start using the weapon and you start gaining experience for the weapon, and that starts opening up paths to put points into skill trees.
The system is very reminiscent of ESO.
Yeah, very reminiscent of ESO. The difference is, like, ESO had some constraints still. Like, ESO was kind of difficult to literally level all the things.
I mean, ESO also had classes that you could or could not care about.
Right. Like, in theory, I could just level all the weapons all the way up and level all the crafting all the way up. Like, there's no real constraints as to anything that would limit my progression. No
overall character level?
No. Well, there's an overall character level, but, like, that doesn't have anything to do with your weapon levels or your crafting levels.
Got it.
Like, they all have every trade has its own independent leveling system. So I really like that. I like being able to, piddle around doing armor smithing and piddle around doing weaponsmithing. And, like, as we're talking, I'm gonna start leveling whatever they call alchemy in this game, because I like healing potions. They're really handy. So the game starts you off in a territory, and every territory has a fort and a settlement. And the fort is essentially what controls who owns the territory. And whoever holds the territory, what company, which is their equivalent to guild, basically has the governorship of that territory and can set some parameters for the town. The cool thing, though, is like when an area is contested, all that shit's happening with the fort. It's not happening with the settlement at all. And in fact, you just kind of go into a instanced version of the zone to duke it out for control of the zone. And if you're a player that just does not give a shit about PvP at all, your life continues on like normal.
Okay, so basically there is a zone for PvP to happen, and a zone where PvP does not have to happen.
Right, and the PvP zone only happens when, well, like there's world PvP, like, and you can flag yourself for world PvP. Don't know why anybody would want to do this. No, other than like but the thing is like both players have to be flagged, so like it's a consensual flagging system, and you can only flag up when you're in a town. So it's not like you can just like, if you get pissed at somebody in the wild and they took your ore node, you flag up real quick and duel them. Like, no, you'd have to go back to town, then flag up, and then go back out into the wild and hunt the player down. So like realistically, like
sounds like they're trying to make that as inconvenient as possible, which makes me ask why they included it at all.
Well, no. That actually, so here's the thing, because I don't necessarily hate world PvP. I sometimes want to do it. Sure. But one of the things that I still play on a PvE server. So the only way that PvP is going to happen is if either I am out there flagged and somebody attacks me, or somebody else is flagged and I choose to attack them. But the advantage is always with the attacker, the person who's coming out of their non-flag status to deal some damage to who is already like willingly putting themselves in harm's way. This forcing you to be like commit. If you want to do world PvP, you have to accept the risks of that. But you also can't get like ganked by somebody who is just casually around and sees, oh, this person's at 5 hit points after fighting that mob. Time for me to like drop my PvE flag, kill them, and then go hide while I wait for my flag to drop.
Right, and really the carrot being dangled is, so there's 3 factions in the game, and they, for the most part, map up to Greedfall as well. You have the Coin Guard, you have the Alchemists, and you have the Church. And basically, like, the Soldier cast is green in color, the Scientist cast is purple in color, and the Church is yellow in color. And at some point, it's usually around 10 or 11-ish, based on when you got there quest-wise, you will be asked to pick a faction. So this is one of the only things that I don't love about the game. Companies are faction-based, so you're going to have to get everyone to agree to be the same color.
Scientists.
I am legit. Like, I'm hearing this and I'm like, oh, I remember the problem with PvP in WoW at the launch is everyone was Alliance. Everyone's going to be a scientist.
So the soldiers probably what most people are going to be.
Actually, right now, the Church is the most widely spread faction.
Really?
Weird.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Yeah, it's so bizarre. Like they're the ones that hold the most territory right now.
Do they get like fancier armor or something?
No.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm betting the goons rolled Church because that sounds like goons.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But
sure
anyway,
does.
so like my natural inclination obviously is Team Green, but I am willing to go Team Purple because purple's an amazing color.
I like both of those colors.
Purple sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
purple.
basically, like I am fine being the syndicate because, like, I have a feeling that that's what everyone else will want to be, and it doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But like I'm saying, the carrot of getting you to flag up is okay. God, there's so many dolls within this nesting doll. So you're able to get quests from your faction leader, and there's 6 in total that you can have out at any given time, and then they reset periodically. But you can always finish the ones that you already had, and 3 of those involve flagging up. So if you are not willing to flag, you basically have halved your quests during, I think it's a 4-hour block, maybe, between when they reset. I've had plenty of stuff to do that I don't need these quests, so I've not flagged up. The other kind of perpetual quest is this game is all about building up a settlement. So each region of the game has a faction associated with it. So, like, you are gaining faction with the settlers of the area. And every time you level up your settlement or your region faction, you get to choose a perk. And it may be like faster harvesting skill or lower trade tax or, like more storage space, because this is a game without a unified bank system and without a unified auction house system. All of that stuff is attached to the settlement of a region. So, like, your trade fees, if you have lower trade fees, it means you can buy stuff off the, auction house in the region easier. And the other part about that is there are no NPC vendors. Like, you just can't sell stuff to a trash vendor. You have to decide, do I want to break this down for materials, or am I going to actually put this on the auction house, hoping somebody in the region buys it? So there's a bunch of interesting decisions being made.
So what's the money faucet for the game? How does currency enter the game if there are no NPC vendors?
By doing these little quests, and also just by doing stuff out in the world like coin drops.
Okay.
Then the next question is, how does money exit the game?
Everything has a slight fee associated with it. So, like, if you use a craft machine in a settlement, there is a slight fee for using that crafting machine. If you put stuff up on the auction house, like, there's a fee that's charged up front, and then there's a cut that the auction house takes of the sale. Like, there's little subtle fees. There's housing in the game. You have to have level 15 with a settlement and be level 20, I think, and you can buy a house. And it has an upfront cost, and then it has a 10% per week tax, basically.
I was going to say, you mentioned that there is tax policy that can be set. Is that set by
That is
players?
set by the governor.
Okay, which is a player.
Yes.
Who
it maxes out at 25%. I assume that guild or that company gets that tax. I don't know for certain. I've not been in a company that owns a thing, but I don't know the specifics. But how wars happen in a region is when another faction gains enough influence to be able to challenge for the fort.
Interesting.
And then they take control of the territory until somebody else challenges them. And this all more or less happens seamlessly to the player, other than the fact that, like, the rates can change. Like, where I'm leveling right now has horrific taxes, which kind of sucks because the region I came from is led by a green faction group that has the lowest possible taxes in all of the areas that they control.
So I was going to ask, how difficult is it to move from region to region to, like, do your various crafting and rendering?
So here's the thing: is like I said, the storage system is not shared. So if you want to pick up and move to another area, you basically need to hot-foot it across the map, an inventory at a time. There is fast travel, so you can bind it in an inn, and then every hour you can basically teleport back to that inn. There is a death port option of unequipping your gear and dying, and then you can res back at either your camp, which is another concept that I'll get into in a second, or the inn that you were bound at, or the nearest settlement. Like, so there's and those could all be the same place. Or there could be like 3 different places depending on where you're at.
But I guess the idea is that personal inventory is so limited that you need to routinely bank it in a nearby settlement, and because those banks are not transferable, it's a pain to move those resources across.
Yeah, and there are some perks of the storage. So basically, like all the storage in a settlement, anytime you're interacting with anything in that settlement, you can just auto draw stuff from your storage.
All right.
So if you're using the crafting machines, all the ore and stuff that you've got in your bank, you can just craft at from the machines. So that's really handy. And I think the idea is basically to build settlement loyalty to where I live here, I live in this town, and now I'm going to help make it better. And one of the ways of making it better is your town can embark upon projects. And there's a project board in the town, and it offers quests as well. And each quest that you complete gives you 10 points towards the project. And when the entirety of the town reaches, I think, 3,000 points, you build whatever you're working on. So, like, your crafting machines in the town start out at tier 2, but I've reached the point, for example, now at 25-ish, where I need tier 3 machines. So those don't exist unless the town has upgraded to tier 3 or tier 4 or tier 5. And each one of those projects takes an amount of time to complete, however long the players take to complete it, and then 16 hours before it's done being built.
I feel like this game, I'm really curious how much fun this game is to play, because this game feels like it's going to generate stories like you see out of EVE.
I was going to say, a lot of this sounds a lot like EVE Online, but without the constant danger of being ganked.
The game is...
Moment-to-moment gameplay is actually kind of fun.
It's really good.
Yeah, that too. It sounds like it actually has some PvE gameplay.
Yeah, like, it's really good, and the crafting is really cool. I mean, it's a game where basically any item you get can be crafted, save for there's a couple things that you get as rewards from a region. So, like, I have a cool set of armor that the region I'm in right now gave me for completing a quest from, like, one of the town leaders. And that was kind of cool, but, like, in theory, anybody could do that same quest and get that piece of armor. Also, your faction has an armor set that you gain through leveling up with your faction by doing quests and stuff. But everything else is craftable. So, like, if you see a drop in the world, you can eventually craft it. You can break stuff out down in the field to raw crafting materials. You can repair your own gear. But, like, the moment-to-moment gameplay is really good, and it gets more deep the longer in you go, because, like, it's kind of rudimentary at the very beginning, and I'm like, I don't know if this is great. You're just basically swinging your weapon and, you know, trying to dodge out of the way. But, like, by the start, you have, like, a dodge roll, which is a little excessive. Like, you just roll the hell out of the way. But I'm wearing heavy armor, so my dodge roll turned into a hop. Which,
you know, that actually sounds more useful than the default dodge roll.
It is way the hell more useful for the style of play that I want, which is block a thing, or hop out of the way and then counterstrike. Every weapon. So right now there's sword and shield, hatchet, two-handed hammer, musket, bow, life staff, and fire staff. I think I'm rattling them all off there.
Wow, this is feeling more ESO.
Yeah, like it is a very ESO inspired system. And every weapon has 2 trees. And the first time I played, I kind of just picked things all over the map, and that's not at all what you want to do, at least until you know what the hell you're doing, because there's a lot of synergy in each one of the trees. So you pretty much want to pick a tree and then kind of build down that tree. I now kind of have an idea of what I'm doing, and I'm starting to branch out a little, but that wasn't until I put 11 points in the tree and got the ability down at the bottom of the tree. But yeah, like, so there's each thing is a little bit different. Like, so bow is probably my favorite of the ranged weapons, and you have a tree that's more of a marksman-y feel. And then there's a build that's more of a support bow build, to where you've got like smoke screen, and you've got multi-shot, and you've got, like less, I'm just going to deal raw damage to a single target, and more, I'm going to kind of do some tricksy stuff to like help out a party.
Would you say, Bill, that you are healing with arrows?
I was not healing with arrows, sadly. I wish I could. I did pick up healing staff just to go far enough in to get an AoE group heal.
Okay, so can you hot swap weapons then? Yeah,
you can hot swap weapons in the middle of combat. There's a small amount of animation locking, so you have to wait till your animation has finished before swapping to the next weapon.
How many weapons can you have equipped?
So I want to say it is level 10 that you get your second weapon slot, and it's level 30 when you get your third weapon slot. And I believe you can have, you just have 3 total, yeah. And you can swap back and forth between them. And the thing is like I said, there's no penalty for leveling any of them. Like, they have independent leveling, so it's not like the only thing is the opportunity cost of the amount of time you spent leveling the thing.
Okay. Is there a cap to how many abilities you can have equipped, or like?
So there's only 3 abilities that you can have equipped.
Okay.
But each of the trees only has 3 abilities. So like if you follow down, like there's 2 trees and a sword, and there's 6 total abilities, like 3 in each tree. One of them for the defensive tree I don't like, and I don't think is very useful. So I never bought it. I'm going to instead buy like an AoE attack from the attacky tree. And that's going to be my build, because for whatever reason, that ability does not feel like it's doing what it should. It's supposed to like really increase your defensive capabilities, but like anytime I've popped it, it hasn't done anything. Basically, you just don't want to get hit. That's the true answer. Don't get hit. Either block it or dodge it. There's a lot. So one of the things that I kind of realized today, and I do not know if this is by accident or if this is by intent. But like, if it is by intent, this game has brilliant AI, namely for zombies.
Oh.
Because zombies, like if you think about zombie fiction, zombie movies, they have very short attention spans.
Mm-hmm.
They are easily distracted. If somebody is running away really fast, they're going to shift to the slower moving target. Mob aggro is real weird in this game. So like, say you're running down the road and you are just standing there and somebody runs past you with an undead following them. Almost for certain, that undead is going to run a little bit past you and then realize you're just standing there and break away from the target and latch onto you.
Wow.
So
this game has fairly high train potential.
I was going to say, this sounds abusable.
It is very abusable. But it doesn't seem to be... Like, this seems to be a thing that they're doing for the undead. Because, like, I don't see quite as high of a train potential with like wolves or any other kind of wildlife. They tend to maintain aggro better than like this game's version of the undead. So that kind of leads me to think this is intentional, because like it's not, the behavior acts differently based on what kind of thing you're fighting.
Is there the concept of threat and threat generating abilities in this game?
There are no threat generating abilities that I know of. Like nothing specifically says it's building threat. There are crowd control abilities. So like I have daze abilities and stuff as a tanky sword and shield character. I also have like body slams that will knock them to the ground. So like I think maintaining focus by doing that is a thing, but like I don't know if there really is threat per se.
Okay.
There are evasion abilities, like so one of the bow attacks is like basically a jump back shot to try and get out of the way of the target. I think it may just be that mobs have like a really short aggro radius.
Is this going to be more action oriented? It's incumbent if something is attacking you, you need to get out the way.
You need to get out the way. This is very much action combat. I would say it is more action combat than like even Elder Scrolls Online is.
Interesting.
Like moving out of the way of the attack is 100% viable. Attacks have a certain travel vector. So like if it's melee and they swing at you, sidestepping is a perfectly legitimate way to get out of the way of the attack. There is no aim assist, which makes bows a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, like it's really freaking cool. I've been playing the hell out of it. I have put in over 40 hours, and I am level 27-ish or so, and I just kind of wander around aimlessly, do a little crafting, do a little gathering. So like there's certain materials that are really, really, really common, but then there's other things that are like, they're just rare enough to make it exciting when you find like some herbs or some hemp or like an iron node and I haven't quite figured it out, but like the game does not have a mini map. It has a pretty good compass system, and the compass system improves over time. And I think it's based on your skills, because like earlier today, ore nodes just started showing up on my compass. Neat. And I don't know at what point that happened, like, or if there's a turkey nearby, a little picture of a turkey will show up and you can go hunt down that turkey, or a rabbit or a boar.
Do you have like hunt turkey skills that you're leveling up and mine ore skills you're leveling up?
Yeah, there's mining, there's skinning, which also includes tracking, and I think that's what's putting various objects on my bar. The crafting system is kind of cool in that, like, there's a random chance of things just doing interesting things on their own. So, like, every item has a random chance of having a socket, or every item has a random chance of having some kind of affix on it, or multiple affixes on it. Or you can pour specific items into the crafting process to guarantee you have a socket, or guarantee you have a specific affix. So like one, you can craft a specific item purposefully if you really want to, and if you have the materials and the time to track everything down. Or if you're just leveling, you can craft a ton of an item and have a happy incident of it just ending up pretty cool. Like, I have a sword that does plus magic damage and has a really cool purple lightsaber glow to it. I just randomly crafted it, and it had it on it. God, so I don't think I talked about the camp. That is an important concept. So at any point when you're out in the wilds, you can hit Y and build a camp, and the cost of the camp never changes. It's like 5 pieces of wood and 1 piece of flint, and you'll plunk down a basic campfire. And as you level up, the level of your campfire improves, which makes you heal up faster and stuff like that. And it does two things. It gives you some basic crafting abilities. Like, you can't craft anything good, but if you're out in the wild and a pick breaks, you can craft a crappy pick at the campfire. You can craft some basic food. You can craft some basic healing items. But the other thing that it does is it sets a respawn point. So if you are somewhere far away from a settlement and it is dangerous, you can plunk down a campfire real quick, and if you die, you can respawn right back to the campfire. Now, like, there's no reason to necessarily return to your body, but it does make it more convenient if you are doing something challenging and completing a quest. The only, like, concerns I have is the moment-to-moment gameplay is amazing. I am enjoying the hell out of it, but I don't know what the end game is going to be like. I don't know if it's going to have an end game.
Have you done any group content?
I have not done any group content. The only group content that I've necessarily found, other than just roaming around in groups, is there are corrupted invasion kind of things around the map, and they are for like 3 to 5 players. And as far as I can tell, it's kind of like a rift from Rifts, that a thing happens and you have to do some things to close down this corrupted area. And I don't know. I don't know what the rewards are like. I know as you get higher in zone, everything becomes more challenging. I went in search of oil earlier. Oil is needed for some crafting things. Oil only comes from swampy regions. Okay. As far as I'm aware, there's 2 of those, and they're both really nasty. Like 30 to 35-ish, and like really dense with bad things. I encountered some kind of grave digger type creature that like had a coffin on his back and a shovel, and his main attack was to swing his shovel at me, and then he turned around and opened the casket, and like all these souls started pouring out of it. And while that was happening, it was just constantly draining my health.
So you said,
and I couldn't block against it. So like it was just, oh hey, I guess I have to kill this thing now before it kills me.
When you say 35-ish, do you mean level 35?
Level 35-ish, yeah.
Okay, what is levels like in this game?
Levels?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. Like, nothing ever becomes truly trivial. So, like, if I'm not paying attention, even though I'm 27, and I happen to aggro, like, 5 level 5 wolves, that could kill me. Like, if I'm not paying attention, that could straight up kill me. However, on the other end of the spectrum, if I am careful, I can reasonably do things that are at least 5 levels above me, but I have to like take it kind of slow and steady and make sure my cooldowns are down or up. And like if you're better at the block dodge, counterattack game than maybe other people are, you could probably do higher than that. Like, it is absolutely possible just to not get hit by anything. Like, so if you want to go Dark Souls on this game, you could probably do that and just avoid taking any damage at all. Let's see, other random comments. It has one of the best audio engines I've experienced. And what I mean by that is like ambient audio is really good, and it is super directional, and you can absolutely use it to figure out what's going on around you, which means if you start mining an ore node, chances are by the time you finish the one you're on, someone else will be mining the one beside it. Because if you're anywhere in the vicinity and you start hearing tink, 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 you can find it based on the direction it's coming from. And most people don't mine things that aren't worth mining. So it's not likely that they're just like mining rock for no good reason.
So do nodes get spawning clusters?
Yeah, nodes tend to spawn, like, nodes of good things tend to spawn in clusters of 2 to 5, depending on what it is. And I don't know, based on my experience, it's about 10 to 20 minutes for a respawn. It's just interesting. I muted all the social channels, so I am playing this game entirely in a vacuum, and I'm fine with that. Like when there are people in the game that I'm actually interested in playing with, I will not do this thing. But like, this game has been sold in a really weird way over the course of the various discussions that the developers have had with the public.
Play our PvP game.
I think your suspicion about the goons may be accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So
look, they're really into Eve. This sounds like it has a lot of what they want from that. So yeah, they're here. There's territory control, and yeah,
there's territory control and drama potential.
Yeah. So the first day of this preview, the chat was awful. Like, it was just awful. So I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to turn this off. I think the problem is this game was originally sold as like a hardcore PvP map control game, and that changed, and it is now a really fun PvE game with optional PvP and map control, and you can just not participate in that. Like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm in a territory that's owned by a faction other than mine, and it really has little effect on me other than, some prices. And the prices aren't extreme enough that it really even's that noticeable. So yeah, like I can happily do my own thing, and not care about the PvP aspect. However, there are apparently PvE invasions that I have not experienced, but they supposedly exist. Like, I remember there being an announcement that on such and such day there would be one happening, where you can basically it's versus a PvE faction that's trying to take over a territory. It's really good. I would absolutely play this like right now if it were released. I have no idea when it's going to release.
Sometime
I feel like
next year.
I feel like they're real gun shy right now.
It's interesting.
It's
one game,
understandable.
One game didn't make it to release, and another game got unpublished. So yeah, like I get that they're gun shy about this. I am secretly hoping that maybe by the time it actually makes it live, that it'll have a story. Because like there really is no story to the game.
I mean, right now it's the Destiny thing, right? It's got lore,
it is the Destiny thing. It has lore, but it doesn't have story. Like, there's quest text, and some of it kind of tells a story, but like it's not a consistent story. And also there's like discoverables out in the world that will tell you like what happened in this area, like what were the hardships that befell this mining town, or this farm. Like, that's another thing that I really dig, is the fact that like places make sense. So like, if you go to a quarry, you're going to have a higher likelihood of finding ore. If you go to a farm, you're going to find crops. So like, as you roam the world, just like walking into an area and seeing a name of the place pop up oftentimes gives you an indication of what you might be able to find there. Anyway, I have talked at length about this.
Yeah.
It is really good. I enjoy it greatly. I did not think I would enjoy it as much as I have, but like, it seems to scratch a combination of things in the right way.
I have a couple of things I'm still curious about. Is there non-weapon skill trees you can level up?
No.
Like for combat? No, okay.
Not for combat, no. Like, you basically, your healing staff is attacks and some heals and some buffs. Your fire staff is traditional nuki fire magic. the game has a way to cheat at leveling these things, where basically the last hit delivered is what gains the experience. So if you have a higher level ability, you can whittle something down to the last hit, switch weapons to the one you're trying to level up, and then get the last hit on it and gain all the experience. Yeah. So like that's why I have any healing staff at all, is I would get it down really low with a sword and then flip over to the healing staff and get a single hit on. But healing staff and fire staff are both ranged attacks. Like they're not bow staff combat. They're like you fire off a little spell with each of them.
That's because nobody does bow staff combat.
Yeah.
Cough. Except like Guild Wars.
Yep. Of the ranged combat, though, I think the funnest is bow. Like bow and musket are similar, but like musket is really hard hitting, but really, really, really slow loading. And bow feels like a bow normally does. You can fire off arrows pretty quick. I mean, they do a decent amount of damage, but like it's not one big hit, and it doesn't have the knockback that the musket has. So I tend to run around with sword and shield and a bow. That way, if for whatever reason I need to hit something to pull it, because of the aggro, pack splitting is a little bit of a challenge, and it's not entirely successful. The game also has a lot of gotcha mobs. And what I mean by that is like there might be, so like not everything is pathing. So there may be a skeleton that's just collapsed along the side of the road. And when you run past, it'll wake up and start to decide you're a good thing to attack. So you kind of have to keep your head on a swivel as you're running around through the world. Anyway,
I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I've always like, and granted, I have not played it, and so maybe I should really give it a try. But Eve always sounded like a game that would be interesting to play. But the times I have seen people play it, it did not look like it would be interesting or enjoyable to moment play.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the interesting things about the way this game's faction control system, so like I formed a company just for the hell of it. Like I'm not playing with anybody else. I mean, I have no clue if anybody's on the same server as me. But anytime there's a faction-based action, every single company of that faction gets a message asking, are they going to participate? And it's a, opt-in, opt-out type thing. Like, yes, I want to participate in this faction action. And then whoever is leading it picks and chooses from the player pool available from all the companies that have said yes. And I don't know what the number is. So, like, it's not an all or nothing thing. So, like, you can decline every faction action, but if, like, one day you decide, oh, hey, yeah, let's do this. Let's get in on this just for the fun of it. You can say, yeah, sure, I want to participate in this thing.
But you might not get selected?
You might not get selected.
Okay, interesting. I mean, is there a way that you can, like, how do you become the person who gets to make those decisions?
You have to be the one who actually initiates the action.
Is there a reasonable number of things that, like, normal people could get to that point? Or is that something you have to do hours and hours of grinding to?
I don't know. I think it's okay. So how a lot of the systems work are just be the person who initiates the action. Like in a town, so the town project board, you can have like 4 projects up at any given time. You can have one that is a crafting project, one that is a project that reinforces the fort in the area, one that is an improve your lifestyle project, which grants everybody in the region a buff, and one that is prepare for war, that grants everyone defending a territory a buff. Now, all you have to do is walk up to a crafting machine, for example, if there's not a current crafting project, and say, okay, I'm going to spend 100 gold, which isn't a ton of money, and I am going to basically turn this into a crafting project for the town. And whoever's the first person to do that, that's the machine that's being upgraded. And I believe the faction control stuff is the same way. Just whoever happens to be the person who does the thing is who's going to lead the charge. Again, like, these are not things I've participated in directly, so I'm just speculating that most of these things probably work the same way, because I've absolutely kicked off a crafting project. And I've also kicked off a fortification project just because I plunked down the 100 gold to start them because nothing was going and I wanted additional quests.
And you got the list of people who said they would help out?
No, well, in those situations, those just start town quests.
Oh, okay.
And for when there's a project up on the board, everyone can go get quests from it. And each person that turns in completes 10 units of that quest, and I think it's 3,000 to finish one of the quests or one of the projects. So I'm sure, like, once social structure has built up, some of these things will probably have some pseudo rules around them, but it seems like whoever does a thing is the one that does a thing. It will be interesting to see what this game is like once a social structure has been put in place. And I don't mean like a system, I mean the way players interact with each other.
Well, I mean, it can be systemic too, as we might be discussing in our soon. But like Guild Wars 2 in PvP, like, how do you know what to do? Somebody is the commander, and everyone just listens to them.
And it sounds like we're shuffling the order of things because this is a decent segue.
Yeah. So Guild Wars 2 has World v World, and it's really fun. So the reason I found this out is because I am a silly person, and I'm working on a legendary. Because why not? I need some sort of goal. This is a long-term goal.
Because you're bored, yeah.
And I mean, not even because I'm bored, just like because it's a long-term goal to have, and like so I can do things in service to it. So I am working on the legendary trinket Aurora, and you need a lot of stuff to make this thing, most of which is PvE. You need some PvE, some PvP things, but you can just buy them on the market. So I probably won't try PvP. But you need a thing from World v World, a gift of battle. The only way to get this is to actually go do World v World and earn one. So I decided to, a couple of weeks ago, they were having a event where your World v World reward track went up 50% faster than normal. So I decided to take that opportunity to earn the gift of battle. And I did this thing, and then I kept playing. And I've spent at least a little bit of time in World v World nearly every day since then, because it's actually a whole lot of fun. And like Kocher was saying, like, one of the ways things gets done in World v World is people can put up commander tags, which show up on the map, and is basically a sign that this person is going to take the responsibility of leading a group to do a thing. And you can just click on the tag, and assuming they made it public, which they don't have to, they can make them private, they can make them invite only. But if it's public, you can just click on the tag and join the group and go with them. Or for that matter, you can just find the tag and follow along. You don't have to join the squad. Like there's basically the downside of that is that heals and buffs and things prioritize squad members over non-squad members. So you'll likely die more often. You're
also probably not getting all of their communications, which is very important.
That too. But yeah, so it's realm versus realm versus realm. So it's it's 3 realms at a time. There's a central zone with a castle in the center that's worth a lot of points, and then each of the 3 realms has their own borderlands that has a few keeps and some towers and some camps that are worth points. and you just bounce back and forth between them to wherever you feel like you're needed, things are happening, and try and earn points by, killing the opposing teams and taking their stuff.
And it leans super hard into, well, not just the opposing teams, but also like the NPCs guarding their keeps and so on, which means it leans really hard on the Guild Wars 2 scaling, which has meant that like just Thalen and I running around, or like Thalen Kodra and I running around can take stuff and make meaningful like impact on the landscape.
Yeah, like if I'm not opposed by a player, I can take a camp on my own, no problem. If there is one player there, it's going to depend real heavily on what profession they're playing and how good they are at it. If they're a necromancer, I have no chance.
Yes, well,
necromancer
OP.
Yeah. I don't know how to kill necromancers. I just don't know how.
I annoy them to death. I can beat them. It mostly involves me annoying them to death.
I have an easier time killing mesmers than necromancers. And mesmers are also incredibly annoying.
It's super annoying. I'm not durable, but I'm annoying. It also does the thing that I've mentioned before about PvP. It rewards you basically just as well if you are winning than if you are not.
Yes, this is very important. There's two things that you are earning. There's the reward track, and there's XP to gain World v World masteries.
There's
reward track.
There's another thing. It's also skirmish tickets.
Yeah, there's skirmish. Well, those mostly come from those come from participation as well. So the reward track and the skirmish tickets, that's just for showing up. Like, win or lose, you get the same amount. The skirmish tickets, it's a little bit dependent on how your realm is doing, how quickly you earn them. But even there, not much. Mostly, it's just showing up. World v World XP for masteries, that's dependent on actually winning. Like, you get that for killing opposing players, for taking keeps and camps and things. But even that, it comes pretty quick.
Also, those things are just going to happen.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing something.
Mm-hmm. And also there are dailies for...
I rolled in and died like an idiot for 2 hours and made an appreciable amount of progress. And like, it's amazing how much the sting of dying over and over again gets diminished when I'm still getting cool stuff. It's just like, oh hey, you got cool stuff because you were here doing stuff.
Yep. Like, oh well, I died. I bounced to the nearest waypoint and either show back up to help, to continue helping, or go somewhere else where I can do more good.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying having a commander with a plan, though, guiding your team around. Like, I've only done this once, but it was very fun because we had somebody who definitely had a lot of experience and knew sort of what our group was capable of and kept finding different ins for us to go and chew away at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it was that commander thing where it's like, oh, hey, do you want to go where the people are? Follow this person. This person is where the people are going to go. It's like a magnet, and people will just show up at this location. And once you have enough people, that's what you need in this kind of large scale PvP is lots of people. If you want to just like wrecking ball around, and then you just have somebody who's like, who is good at directing lots and lots of people. And so it's like very simple commands. Come here, stand here. Okay, go.
Go, 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 go.
Yeah, go, 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 go.
I loved when I have to say, I was shocked at how good a group of 40 completely random strangers were at standing on a point. We could never get that in Molten Core.
Right? Well, yeah, a lot of the Guild Wars events also train people to do this really, really well. So you just have a game where people are almost naturally trained in large scale group maneuvers. And so it's just like, oh yeah, come here, go there, go. Okay, I can do that.
I loved when we were standing like right outside of line of vision, and it's like we start to see the red names coming, and then we all just pour out.
Yeah. I've found that same commander a couple of times since then and run with them, and it's always entertaining.
It was also great because it was like there were a few times where it was like, yeah, I don't think we're gonna win this, but it's gonna be funny to try.
Yup.
we're just gonna YOLO right in here and it's gonna be great. Like, all right, I'm going in here expecting to die. So like when we win, it's like, oh, that was awesome. But it respects my time in a way that PvP rarely does.
Yeah.
And that's so important. It doesn't care how good I am at it, and it respects my time.
My experience in FF14, though, is that as you keep doing it, you will get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
because
I really like 14's PvP.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a big part of it too. Is I'm not that good. I'm not, and I know it. But I can still contribute. I can help, and I'm getting a little better slowly.
Well, the thing with
I'm learning.
with 14's PvP is it's so system based that like once you understand the systems and are doing things in the correct order, then like you're already doing infinitely better than you were like on day one.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is if you don't make me feel like I'm wasting my time going in there and being bad, then I will stay in there and go from being bad to being better and then eventually being good because I just get the practice in.
Yeah,
it's really about practice.
Like I don't feel like I'm making my team's chances worse by showing up. I don't feel like I'm taking the place of someone that is actually good at this.
Yeah, it's less of a team sport and more of an event.
Yeah. And I think that's really good for learning, though, because, you know, think back to games like League of Legends, where it's really hard to even learn how to play that game because your engagements are so short just because you get straight rolled by better players.
Yeah.
And, like, there's no time to learn what you're doing. Whereas if it's an event and you're all focused on goals instead of skirmishing, then like the best players are really focused on the goals because the goals are what you're winning. So like you can just kind of ride along with the group that's completing the goals. And over time you'll learn why that was important to do this or do that. But like the success is in the group, not the individual player death matching.
I do think that it reminds me, and granted I've not done much Realm v Realm. I don't know, it's very interesting. I did a little bit of Cyrodiil and did not feel like, maybe I was less familiar with ESO, the game, but I felt like I didn't know how to contribute as well in that as I did in this game. And I felt like I was much more fragile and got rolled quite quickly when I was in Cyrodiil. But it feels like Ultramar Valley to me in a lot of ways, where there's just big PvE objectives, and sometimes you're going to crash into a wave of other players. But even, like, that was the thing. Even when the crashing into a wave of other players didn't go well for us, it didn't feel that bad because we just immediately rezzed up like there was no timer or anything. And then we're like, all right, let's try something else. Or let's do that again. Once more with feeling.
I also appreciate that I'm not sure when they implemented this, but they do a thing now where realms are actually paired up against each other. So they take a higher tiered realm and a lower tiered realm and pair them up together. and they shift these around every 2 months to like try and keep things relatively even. So, you know, our realm is currently Yak's Bend. We're currently teamed up with Hinge of Dinravi. And, you know, they are the high
One
tier.
of these is the hotness.
Yeah. And so, you know, I feel like that gives ArenaNet a little bit more ability to, you know, kind of pull levers and shift those links around to try and keep things relatively even for everybody.
I am going to be sad if... So that is definitely good. Maintaining balance through those types of like server population controls are great. I will miss some of the people that I meet playing with Hinge of Dinravi, though.
Yeah, like there'll be people that we've been fighting with that maybe in a couple of months we end up having to come up against because they're, we're no longer teamed up with them.
I don't know how to handle being go against. But it does have an interesting effect where like strategies tend to cycle around.
I am very curious what strategies are in place, if any, for how to prevent one faction from just rolling in New World. From having a numbers advantage.
Yeah, like I wonder if those PvE invasions that Bell was talking about, like maybe they occur more often the more the more of the map you control to try and keep things balanced a bit.
Well, so I don't think that it matters for you to control more than one area. Like, I don't know if there's any inherent benefit of controlling more than one area. Like, everything that exists seems to be limited to a single region.
Bragging rights. For a lot of people, that's enough.
Imagine a single zone. So, like, you control Westfall and somebody else controls Darkshire. Okay. Like, Darkshire and Westfall are never going to fight each other.
Yeah, but people are going to look at the world map and want it to all look one color.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but I mean, like, I assume there will be. I think eventually there will probably be a heartland for each of the factions, and then there will be constant skirmish zones. And realistically, those swamp zones are probably going to be what people are fighting for the most, because those are the zones that have like a very limited resource, and there's probably other limited resources I just haven't gotten to yet. And because they're the zone that a thing exists in, chances are that auction house is going to be the one that has the heaviest trade in that item and probably has the most expensive items, the most tax gathered, etc. So it's going to be real interesting to see how player economy works out. Like, for me, I just want to go where the crafters are at so that I have the best crafting machines. Like, the other thing that was interesting is, like, housing has benefits, apparently. Like, you can apparently place trophies in your house, and the trophies will give you some kind of a world buff. And you can only have, like, a limited number of trophies in any given house. So, and I think you can have 3 houses total, but, like, each house is double the amount of cost for the previous house. So by the time you get to that 3rd house, it's real expensive to upkeep. Housing's instance, though, so, like, you lose your buffs if you haven't paid your taxes, but you can just pay your taxes and go back to square one. And not square one, but, like, basically go back to getting your benefits. Nothing actually goes away. No one is going to take the house and repossess it when you're not playing.
That's good.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, looking at you, FF14.
Yeah. Speaking of whom, I guess they're adding some more housing instances eventually.
Yep.
Semi-soon. We'll see what that does.
I mean, I feel like there's never going to be able to do anything that doesn't keep it where they're very tight on housing, because individual players will always want houses.
Well, and it doesn't do anything for players that wander off and then come back later.
I mean, that's the benefit of instanced housing versus physical housing locations, is you can have that. Like, you can stop playing the game and return to it, and all you do is pay your current rent, and life is good. Yeah. And also with instanced, you don't end up with situations like, Lotro, where, housing neighborhoods felt like ghost towns because only 2 players in a given instance had, an active house.
Yeah.
Housing is a real tricky thing. Like, it builds loyalty and it, like, ties people to the game, but it also can go wrong. Hey, Kodra, how long is your frog fractions discussion?
Very short.
Okay, let's do the frog fractions then.
So I've played frog fractions, and it's gotten me to realize that one of the things that Jim Crawford, Jim Stormdancer cares about is having secrets in games and having games that aren't spoiled. And Frog Fractions are some of the best at that, because whenever a new Frog Fractions game comes out, everyone's just talking about, like, how is it that you can play the new Frog Fractions? And I went into this game and I had no idea what it was like. And yeah, it was a fun game. It's interesting. It actually follows on the story of Frog Fractions 1 in a weird way. I've now seen credits. Yes.
Story.
Well, I used to be the president of Bug Francisco.
Sure.
Right.
Listen, these games are weird. But now it's you going on adventures with your teenage daughter and beating up on internet comment sections.
Frog of War?
The game is goofy. The game is funny. I've seen credits, and I'm not sure how close to the end of the game I am yet. But I don't know. I continue to be delighted by these types of games. Like, they want to be doing something different, and they constantly are. There's definitely a moment in this game where it finally let me do the one thing I wanted to do, and it was very amusing to me that was the thing that you were supposed to do. I got to punch the internet comment section. But yes, if you do want to play this game, you need to wear a hat. That's how you play Frog Fractions 4.
You buy a DLC?
It's Hop's iconic hat, yes.
Iconic hat.
Yep. Iconic cap, I should say.
Oh, I get it, but it hurts.
I actually don't get it. What is this joke I'm missing?
It was one of the things Ubisoft said about Watch Dogs. Like, I think one of their pre-order items was Aiden Pierce's iconic cap or iconic hat or something. Dude wears a normal baseball hat.
Wow, I did not know that. But yes, that is the name of the DLC.
I mean, I feel like it might have been better if you created some frog armor.
People even remember that?
I think people do. Like, horse armor.
Horse armor was the DLC that started DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the DLC that started stupid, frivolous DLC.
It was the first thing I can remember that was DLC and not an expansion pack.
Yeah.
So, random, thought that is non sequitur. I have learned that I don't like riding horses.
In real life or in games?
In games.
Same.
You should.
Okay, Ghost of Tsushima, which has an adorable horse. I named mine Nobu. I run all over the map. I don't ever use the horse.
I actually will take this a bizarre step further in that I don't like my modes of transportation to be living.
What? I love my Raptor.
I would way rather have it's why I have every single robotic and construct mount in FF14, save the absolutely insane ones.
I don't think for me it's anything like that. It's just I don't know. Mounts always control slightly differently, or in a good game that cares about mounts, they tend to control differently than your player.
It's very dependent on the game.
Yeah.
I mean, in something like an MMO, I'm going to ride my mount around everywhere. But, I've been replaying Horizon Zero Dawn, and even though they gave a bunch of bonus skills for mounted combat and mounted gathering, I never use them out.
No. In an MMO, realistically, all the mount is faster movement speed. The movement really doesn't change other than something like Guild Wars. But in the games that try and have a semi-realistic mount system, I just don't ever use it because it always feels, I don't know, there's always some negative to it. Nobu doesn't turn very fast, so I don't ever use him. I feel like I'm significantly more likely to go off a cliff when I'm riding the horse. I don't know. I don't know why that even popped into my head, but yeah, I don't really ride mounts in games other than games where it's basically just faster movement. And this is relevant because before I turned off chat, all chat was people complaining that there were no mounts in this game in New World. And I'm like, you know what? I probably wouldn't use it anyway. I don't use my mountains in Elder Scrolls Online, like, ever.
Oh, yeah, I do.
I either fast travel or run places, and that's pretty much it.
Well, I'm guessing you can't fast travel nearly as much in New World.
No. Fast traveling gets rather expensive.
Which is, I'm imagining, the point. Like, I am very curious about this because, like, one of the things that you get when you can't fast travel nearly as much is a world that feels bigger.
Yes. The world feels real dense. And I think that's what I like about, like, moving on ground, is because I tend to just roll from encounter to encounter to encounter. And I tend to get lost in the game more and not really quite so focused on the objectives. So, like, I have a loose objective. So, like, in Ghost of Tsushima, like, that world is real dense. Like, there's a lot going on in that world. And it also has an amazing audio system. And just the fact that I heard a scream on the wind a lot of times, like, gives me enough of a clue to tell me that, oh, hey, there's probably bandits on the road, like, hassling citizens. Let's go save them. But if I'm focused, like, if I'm zooming past stuff and I'm focused on an objective, I'm less likely to do those little things. I don't know. So we had a couple of significant pauses, and I have a feeling that, Ash, your Blue Mage topic's pretty short.
It's pretty short.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that one too.
So when Blue Mage was introduced in FF14, I was mad. There's no real other way to put this.
It's legit.
It was introduced as the first limited job, and that meant that its level cap was 20 levels lower and couldn't participate in any normal content. This is still true. Even though the level cap is now 10 levels higher, Blue Mage's level cap is also only 10 levels higher. But I've sort of made my peace with what it is, and what it is overpowered nonsense.
It really is.
And you can, like, while you can't automatically queue up for groups, you can put your groups in Party Finder and do dungeons and things as Blue Mages. And in fact, this is the only way to get some spells. I tried this a bit when the level cap was lower, and I hated it because your odds of learning anything were awful. But they have changed it so that your odds of learning spells in dungeons is 100% if you are synced down to the level of the dungeon.
God, that is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievably better. So now learning spells is not a complete crapshoot. And it's kind of fun to play this.
Maybe I will actually go finish out my Blue Mage, because I got tired of not learning the thing.
I had many Wanderer's Palace runs for Sharpened Knife and never got it. And then tonight I ran Wanderer's Palace with 4 Blue Mages, and we got it first try, because if you do it at sync to level 50, it's guaranteed to be learned if the mob uses it. So now I can stab things like a Tonberry.
That seems like a lot of damage.
Now go grind some yokai fates on your Blue Mage.
Wait, you can do that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you can do that.
Holy hell, that's amazing. Also, they really need to give some experience for fates at low levels. Because I thought, oh, hey, I'll run around as a red mage. My red mage is like 72, and I'm just running like low-level content. I've like...
You get some Grand Company seals.
Yeah, like I'm getting some
appreciable XP.
I'm getting some whatever venture seals or whatever from the Grand Company seals, but that's it.
Someone told me that this also crashed the price of glamour crystals because you can buy those easily with Grand Company seals, but that doesn't seem to be as true as I would expect, at least on this server.
I mean, they weren't that pricey to begin with, so...
It's true.
I mean, I always just made my own by buying wood from the Ixal and making them.
Yeah, similarly, you can buy, like, steel nails from the Amalja.
Yeah, that definitely seems like a much-needed change to make Blue Mages worth doing anything with.
Yes, so now that they have made this change, I'm enjoying Blue Mage a lot. They still have their own little solo duty, the carnivore or whatever they called it.
Mm-hmm.
And they added some more stages to that, which I hear are pretty difficult, but I haven't gotten there yet. But they also added achievements for doing certain things in a full party of Blue Mages synced to the proper level with Echo silenced. So this is turn 5, turn 9, turn 13. Alex 4, 8, and 12.
That seems like nonsense as well.
I feel like I need to emphasize how brokenly overpowered this class is.
Yeah. Like, blue mages can fill any role and put out absurd amounts of damage.
You can't put out absurd amounts of damage and be a tank, but that's about it. You also don't get tank health, but you get some tools to make up for that.
You don't need tank health. It's okay. White Wind is absurd, as it should be. I do think they nerfed the run in and blow yourself up and do that over and over tactic.
They did nerf self-destruct tactics.
Yeah. I
If
think they
you,
put like a timer on it.
Yeah. If you use a skill that kills you, it now puts a 10-minute timer on you, so you can't use any other skills to kill you.
No Zerg Rush?
No, and this was a tactic blue mages were using to beat instances very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Because self-destruct does a silly amount of damage.
Especially if you put toad oil on yourself first.
Yes. The thing is, for blue mages beating hard content, this is still relevant, because Final Sting still does silly amounts of damage.
Is Final Sting also?
Final Sting is a blue mage spell.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But will it also kill you if you use it?
Of course it will.
Nice.
It is a final sting.
Wouldn't be final otherwise. Additional effect, inflicts brush with death on self. Cannot be executable under the effect of brush with death. But, like, for Bismarck EX, which I know is one of the things that there's an achievement for doing with 8 blue mages, if you fully buff yourself and then use Final Sting, it does about a quarter of the health of the Corona in the final phase. So if you can get 4 party members to do this, you can just do it in one cycle. And if you remember, when this was at level, you had to do it in 4 cycles, and it was considered good if you did it in 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a show. Any final thoughts about anything we talked about tonight?
Nope.
I think we're good.
Sadly, I think right now the only way you can get into New World is by pre-ordering, so that's unfortunate. I wish everybody could play. But hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.